Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rick Gannon and I am a UK-based property investor on a mission to keep it real. This is part 2 of my top 20 property management tips. Now in part 1, we covered whether you should use a key safe versus a master lock. We did maintenance policy, how to collect your rents, and we also talked a little bit about mattress protectors. So if you haven't seen part 1, please click on the link now. If it's there, it should appear here, and get yourself over to part 1 before you move on to part 2. Please do subscribe to my channel, click on that bell notification so you get all of the notifications when we release new content. Let's roll that intro. Okay, so this is part 2 of my top property management tips. So this is actually tip number 6. So tip number 6, we always recommend that you do a Google search on your tenant. Now this is really, really important. You are what Google says you are, right? That's the kind of a saying at the moment that everyone's talking about. Now, I will tell you a little story. Going back several years ago, when we sort of started full-time in HMO property, we took a tenant, or I should say, I took a tenant, and I was outside the property one afternoon waiting for a broadband engineer to turn up. And in my rear view mirror, I saw several police cars arrive, and out got the police officers, and they were about to go and force entry into the property that I was sat outside. Now, I let them in and they arrested the tenant that was upstairs in one of the bedrooms. And they wouldn't tell me why, and I was really confused. So I went back to my office, which is my dining room at home, and I Google searched the tenant because I thought, well, how can I find out what's going on? And it was very obvious that this tenant was probably not the kind of person that we wanted in the property. And he'd been arrested several months before for assaulting a young girl and assaulting the police officer. Can you hear the sirens outside? And that was really weird, wasn't it? When I said police officer, the sirens started outside. Had I have Google searched my tenant prospect, then this would have been really obvious and it would have stopped a lot of heartache. Now, we had a problem. He was taken back to prison, which meant that we needed to get him to surrender his contract, and we had to get him to sign a letter and get the letter witnessed and all of that. So to save yourself any of the anguish, Google search your tenant. It might not show everything, but it might just give you enough information for you to be able to make your mind up on whether you want to proceed with the tenancy. Okay, number 7. In our HMOs, specifically HMO property, we would suggest that you employ a cleaner. Now, lots of people talk about having cleaning rosters for their tenants to do themselves, and on a Monday it's room 1, and Tuesday it's room 2, and a Wednesday it's room 3, etc. Now, in my experience, that never works, because on a Tuesday, tenant in room 2 doesn't do their cleaning, so on a Wednesday they think they don't need to do it because they should have done it the day before, and it never works. There's always dishes in the sink, the tenants never wash up, and that breeds contempt because then other tenants won't wash up and they say, well, I'm not washing your stuff, why should you wash my stuff? And then it all comes back to haunt you as the property manager. Now, the best way to negate all of these problems is to employ a cleaner. Now, I know that you probably would like to just keep your costs down and you don't feel that you need to employ a cleaner, but it will take away all of the stress. So employ a cleaner and ask your cleaner to wash up as well. Because tenants don't generally wash up, and if your cleaner will wash up for you at least every week if you choose to go weekly, or every 2 weeks, of course, if you choose to go 2 weekly, which is what we do, your property will be brought back into its prime condition, and it takes away all of those complaints. Now, not only that, on the other side as well, it means that you've got peace of mind that your property is being looked after. Now, another tip with cleaners is make sure that your cleaner takes a roll of bin bags when they go and clean the property. Now, for the sake of about £3 for a whole big roll of bin bags, it means that the tenants will always have bin bags, and they should be able to use the bins in the kitchen properly. If you don't do this, what generally happens is when the tenants run out of bin bags, nobody will take responsibility of replacing the bin bags, but what they will do is continue to fill the bins up with rubbish, which means the bin men won't take it on bin day, and it causes a huge problem. So make sure that you've got a cleaner, and make sure that your cleaner provides you with bin bags. Number 8. Now this is a really big one. Specifically with HMO property, not necessarily single lets, but with HMO property where you are responsible for paying the utility bills, sometimes those bills can run away with you. No matter how proactive you think you are with the property, every time you visit, you turn the thermostat down, etc. You give the right education to the tenants when they check in, it never works. So my top tip on this series is to give you the advice of making sure you put some kind of thermostatic control system that allows you to monitor your temperature in your HMO. Now what we do is we use a little gadget called Timostat, and Timostat is a fully compliant countdown timer that will allow your tenants to boost the heating to a maximum of 22 degrees. They don't need it any hotter than that. And it will boost the heating for between 2 and 4 hours. And what will happen, it will count down from that point to 0. Then when it gets to 0, it will turn the heating off. Now this is perfect. Now in my experience, every time I go to one of my HMO properties, it's literally like walking off the airport onto a Barbados runway. The heat hits you in the face because the tenants aren't responsible for paying their bills, so they're not really that bothered about how much it's going to cost. Now with Timostat, when it counts down and the heating switch is off, the tenant will actively have to go up and press the boost button again. So when the property is empty, then it means that your property is not going to be overheated. Now, for those that are aware of the health and safety requirements, we can't restrict the heating. The tenant has to have full control. So what happens is with Timostat, it allows the property to default to 18 degrees and it won't go any colder. So overnight, if nobody's boosting the timer switch, it will keep the property maintained at 18 degrees and it won't go below. And if the tenant's too cold, they can get up and they can boost it to an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, an hour or 2 hours. And then the property will come back on at 21 degrees, then go back off again. So it's a really good way of controlling your heating system, and that's called Timostat. Okay, tip number 9. Don't forget that by being a property manager or a landlord comes with a lot of responsibility. Now, you should, by law, be a member of a property redress scheme if you are a property agent. And that means if you're managing tenants on behalf of somebody else. Now, this isn't necessarily the case if you're running your own portfolio. However, being part of a redress scheme is it's a professional body. It makes you appear professional, and it does give the tenant some kind of recourse if they have a problem with you or your management services moving forwards. So this tip is to become a member of either the property ombudsman or the property redress scheme, and explain to your tenants if they're not happy with your service. They can make a complaint to the property redress scheme or the property ombudsman. And then what will happen is that professional body will contact you and contact the tenant and mediate in order for you to try and be able to come to a reasonable solution with each other. Now, not only being a member of the property redress scheme, I'd also recommend becoming a member of the NRLA, and that is another professional body that is a very small subscription, and it allows you to access documents like AST contracts, Section 13 notices, Section 21 eviction notices, Section 8 notices. Now, it's not a legal requirement to be a member of the NRLA, but it's about £10 a month, and it's worth every last penny, because you've also got an advice law line, a guidance line on the other side of the phone as well. So if you're not sure about any elements of your property, then you can give the NRLA a call and they can guide you moving forwards. So that's my next tip, is even if you're not required to become a member of the Ombudsman or the redress scheme, I always say better to have and not need, and for the sake of a few pounds, you should join them anyway. Okay, my final tip for this episode is to become a member of the ICO. That's the Information Commissioner's Office. So regardless of whether you're a property manager, agent, landlord, etc., you are required by law to be data protection compliant. And the ICO is part of the data protection elements that you will need to satisfy as a business owner. Now, if you're a property landlord or if you're an agent, you are collating information from a third party, names, addresses, emails, telephone numbers for prospective and current tenants. So in order to hold that information, you'll need a data protection policy, and you'll have to go out and have a look at the ICO website in order to put together your own data protection policy. And that policy really just tells you and your staff and the ICO themselves on what data you're handling, who's responsible for handling the data, and what are you doing with the data. So you need to have a data protection policy, and you need to be registered with the Information Commissioner's Office. Have a look at the website and see how you can put together your own policy. So folks, that's the end of this episode of my top 20 property management tips. I'd love you to leave a comment if you've got any suggestions, or if you'd like to add anything to my suggestions that I've given you. These are just the baseline elements of things that will help you through your property journey and just basically keeping it real from the coalface. So please do click on that subscribe button, click on that bell notification, leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next workshop.